Howdy gamers. Let's talk about the runes for Amumu Jungle. A champion that kind of like a lot of people try to like hack into different ways. It's either like build him full AP and run electrocute and just hope for the best, hope that you can one shot the person. But in that way, I think he just functions as like a worse Cho'Gath or a worse Gragas or something like that. So the Keystone I'm going to be recommending is Aftershock. Aftershock, after you immobilize an enemy champion, you gain increased armor and magic resist, and then it's based on a flat amount, but then also on plus 80% of your bonus armor and magic resist. So whenever you're building like the two completed items, most common being like Abyssal Mask and Frozen Heart, then you're going to be getting more stats from those. And then you're also going to be dealing a little bit more damage with this if you get the explosion off, and then the cooldown's only 20 seconds. But with jungle, the cooldown's not that significant. The reason being with Aftershock, it makes it so that even if you're building damage, it's still going to be useful, as whenever you engage, you're still going to be able to tank a certain amount of damage without having to like have Zhonya's or something. And then if you're building tank, it's also going to be giving you even more value out of the stats that you're already purchasing. So that's nice. The only thing that I could potentially see that would be bad of it, like if you're missing your Q, it's more brutal. But in that sense, it's better to have a loss hurt more so that you just don't miss the Q, basically. So that's that. Aftershock, it's going to make you tankier and then give you more damage on your initial engage naturally, as whenever you Q on top of someone, you're going to be getting the Aftershock damage on top of them. So that's that. Great rune. Second rune's going to be Font of Life. It's the only rune you can really get value out of this row. You could run Demolish, but not so useful in jungle. And then Shield Bash you can't even use. So impairing the movement of an enemy champion marks them for 4 seconds. Ally champions who attack the marked enemies heal for 5 plus 1% of your max health over 2 seconds. So it's something, man. It helps your allies stay like more sustained in fights, I guess, but it's really just kind of like there. So whenever you ult or Q someone, it's gonna help. It's gonna help like your mid lane or top laner whenever you're ganking for them to be more sustained, especially if you're in an actual 2v2 rather than just ganking the enemy. And then in team fights, it's gonna mark potentially all 5 enemies that you ult. So it's mostly gonna help your AD and then potentially like your top laner. So that's that. Third rune's gonna be Conditioning. After 10 minutes, you gain plus 9 armor and magic resist, and then your armor and magic resist is increased by 5%. So again, it's going to help you basically with your completed build. So whenever you get more armor and magic resist from your first 2 completed items, then it's going to amplify that armor and magic resist, making you even tankier. And that's kind of Amumu's goal, is just like exist and then farm and then get the tank items and then engage on the enemy and survive. The longer you survive, the more damage you're going to be dealing. It's kind of like the best way to spend Amumu. So yeah. Fourth rune is going to be Overgrowth. You absorb life essence from monsters or enemy minions that die near you, basically just monsters from the jungle camps, and then permanently increase or permanently gaining 3 maximum health for every 8. So this is a bit slower to stack up in the jungle compared to in lane, but whenever you absorb 120 monsters or enemy minions, probably just jungle monsters, you gain an additional 3.5 maximum health. So with Conditioning and Overgrowth, you're going to be getting like just tankier for doing what you already do, which is just farm and then exist in the game and then build tank items. That's basically it. For the secondary runes, it's going to be the Domination Tree with Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter. Cheap Shot, damaging champions with impaired movement or actions, deal 10 to 45 based on your level true damage, and this is only on a 4-second cooldown. So whenever you initially engage onto the enemy with your Q, you're going to be able to get 1 proc on that, and then if you use the blue smite, it'll also help you, or it'll also let you proc Cheap Shot like twice in an all-in. You could even use it with your ult. So there's multiple ways to proc this twice during an all-in or a gank, and then in general, it's pretty basically just to be able to get off like throughout a team fight as well. And then it's also just more damage. And as a tank, the true damage is pretty easy to get off. The slows are pretty easy to get off, and it's just pretty just free damage. And it's not like a huge investment, and it's on such a low cooldown that you can proc it multiple times. So pretty generally useful. That, and it can be procced on multiple targets over and over again. It's not like a Keystone where you spend it once and then it's just down. If you ult onto 5 targets, you're going to be hitting cheap shot on all of them, so it's pretty useful. Ultimate Hunter, your ultimate gains 5% reduced cooldown, plus an additional 4% per bounty stack. A bounty stack is basically a unique kill. So you kill the top laner, that's 1. You kill the jungler, that's 2. You kill the mid laner, that's 3, etc. So for each unique champion you kill, you're going to be getting a bounty stack, which is pretty easy to do. And even if you don't have one bounty stack by like 15 minutes, the 5% reduced cooldown reduction on Amumu's ult is fine. It's good enough. But it's pretty likely that in solo queue you're going to have at least 2 come mid game, and then it's going to get you to a good amount of ult cooldown reduction, as Amumu is so reliant on his ult. And then whenever it's up more often, it just leads to unfair plays, as Amumu is so dominant whenever he just shows up to a lane or a fight with his ult. So that's that. And then for runes, it's going to be attack speed, armor. The attack speed helps you obviously just get more attacks on camps, as the primary way that you're going to be dealing damage to camps is with your auto attacks, your W, and then your E. The armor is going to make it so that you can just tank more, as Amumu doesn't have that much sustain in the lane, or in the jungle. So camps like Krugs, Red Buff, Gromp, they're going to kind of kick your ass, but the double armor is actually going to help offset that, as most champions have to run this extra adaptive force to like really actually clear properly, but Amumu doesn't. So having 12 armor is going to make you like pretty significantly tanky, and then the attack speed is going to make it so that you're just dealing more damage to the camps, especially whenever you're full clearing, which is probably what you're doing most of the time on Amumu. So these are the default runes I'd recommend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I answer literally all of them, and if this video helped you, leaving a like helps me. Now, let's talk about the like variation slash like basically just like what people like try to hack Amumu into with the AP build. So the Keystone's gonna be Electrocute, Cheap Shot. Any of these are fine. Eyeball Collection is probably the most common, and then you have the option of like Ravenous Hunter or Ultimate Hunter. I would hope people would go Ultimate Hunter if they're going this, and then geez, what would people even run secondary? I suppose they would run like this and this, or maybe Free Boots. I suppose Free Boots would be best, as it would help you spike mid game with Runic Echoes and then Sorkpin Boots. So the thing is with this is like you do spike harder come mid game, but again, in my eyes, it's just a worse version of Cho'Gath or Gragas or Echo or something like that. And you're giving up a lot of the strengths that Amumu has, which is surviving more in fights and then getting more damage off in that way. Because you're also providing utility by surviving in fights. Because if you're staying on top of targets whenever you have items like Abyssal Mask and then Frozen Heart, you're debuffing the enemy in multiple ways. You could even have Rylai's with the other runes. And with the Aftershock runes, I'd recommend you run Cinderhulk, and then Cinderhulk, build Abyssal Mask, Frozen Heart, and then you have the variations of like Rylai's, Leandry's, because you could still be building those items and then still be dealing a lot of damage. But with these runes, you'd be wanting to run like Runic Echo, Sorkpin Boots, Zanya's Death Cap, I guess, or even Runic Echo's Death Cap, but you're going to be one-shotting the enemy if you get to that, but it's like, how do you get to that? It just makes things wildly inconsistent in my eyes. And it's not so necessary because Amumu is so strong and way easier to play with the Aftershock build and then with the build I'd recommend. So I just really don't see this rune variation. You get more damage on ganks, I guess, but again, I just can't see it, so it's really hard for me to think about it. Maybe I'm viewing it emotionally or something, but the extra damage, the extra burst damage does not outweigh the extra durability, survivability, and then extra utility added from that in my eyes. So that's that. I don't like this rune page at all, and then I don't like the full AP Amumu build at all. So that's that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If this video helped you, leave a like, blah, blah, blah. Twitch link in the description. Hey, thanks for watching Amumu. He's pretty basic champion. fine for newer players though, man. Pretty strong in the jungle. Just full clear, gank, full clear. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Full clear. Don't forget to full clear, gank, full clear is your ult up. Full clear, gank, full clear.